Hey, what's up, everyone? So a while back, I made a video about the ideas in this one specific finance book, and it ended up becoming one of the biggest videos on this channel. And ever since then, I keep getting the same comment over and over. Okay, I get the idea, but how do I actually use this? That's fair, because knowing something and applying it are two completely different skills. You can know that saving money matters and still not save a dollar. You can know compounding works and still have $0 invested. Knowing isn't the bottleneck. Doing is. So that's what this video is. 18 of the sharpest lessons from that book. But instead of just explaining what each one means, I'm going to show you exactly how to apply it. This week, starting today. No fluff, no filler, just 18 lessons, 18 real examples, and 18 small actions you can actually take. All right, let's get into lesson one. Save money without needing a specific reason. Most people only save for something: a vacation, a new car, a house down payment, and that sounds responsible. But here's the problem. Life doesn't ask permission before it throws something at you. Your car breaks down, your hours get cut, your kid needs braces. None of that was on your list. I remember a friend of mine, we'll call him Marcus, who had exactly $1,200 saved, earmarked for a used truck. Then his apartment building had a burst pipe, and he owed his landlord for damages he didn't cause. That truck fund became an emergency fund overnight, and he was frustrated, because in his head, that money already had a job. Here's the shift. Stop assigning every dollar a job before you even have it. Save some money with no name on it at all. Just room to breathe. So here's how you apply this one. Starting this week, open a separate account, doesn't matter how small, and don't label it for anything. Not vacation, not emergency, nothing. Just let it exist as flexibility. That's lesson 1 of 18. Lesson 2, compounding rewards patience, not genius. Here's something wild. The guy who's often called the greatest investor alive didn't get rich because he found some secret formula. He got rich because he started young and never stopped. Most of his fortune was built after he was already in his 60s. Not because he suddenly got smarter, because he'd been compounding for decades, and decades is where the real growth happens. We treat investing like it's about being clever, picking the perfect stock, timing the perfect entry. But the truth is boring, and boring doesn't get clicks. Patience does the heavy lifting, not intelligence. I think about my uncle who invested a small, steady amount every single month for 22 years without ever checking the balance obsessively. He wasn't a genius. He was just consistent. And consistency, held long enough, starts looking like genius from the outside. So here's how you apply this one this week. Pick one account, automate one contribution, and commit to not touching it, not moving it, not optimizing it, for at least 12 months. Let time do what time does. Lesson 3. Getting rich and staying rich are two completely different skills. That's the thing almost nobody talks about. Getting rich takes risk. It takes a willingness to bet on yourself, to take a shot when the odds aren't certain. But staying rich takes the exact opposite. It takes fear. It takes paranoia. It takes assuming that what you have can be taken away at any moment and acting like it. The book calls it the difference between a bull and a bear. The bull gets you there. The bear keeps you there. And most people get so good at being a bull, at chasing growth, at taking chances, that they never learn how to be the bear. Then one bad year wipes out a decade of gains because they kept swinging instead of protecting. I knew a guy once who made a pile of money in a short time, and he was convinced it would keep happening forever. He doubled down on everything. And he didn't have a single dollar set aside for if things went wrong. Things went wrong. And he lost most of it faster than he'd made it. He had the skill to get rich. He never learned the skill to stay rich. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Take one honest look at what would happen if your income stopped tomorrow. Not if it stops in a year. If that answer scares you, that's not a bad thing. That's the bear waking up. Your job is to build a buffer so big that a bad year is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. That's lesson 3 of 18. Lesson 4. No one is crazy. This one took me a long time to truly get. Because it's easy to look at someone else's money decisions and think, that's insane. Why would anyone spend that on a car? Why would anyone stay invested in that? Why would anyone keep that much cash doing nothing? But here's the thing. Every single person is making decisions based on their own history, their own experiences, their own fears. The person who keeps tons of cash was probably burned in a market crash when they were young. The person who spends big on a car grew up with nothing and now needs to feel secure. To them, it makes perfect sense. Nobody is acting crazy. They're acting logically based on their own version of the world. And here's why that matters for you. The moment you stop judging other people's money decisions, you start understanding your own. Because you have your own history too. Your own fears, your own version of the world. And until you see them, you'll keep repeating the same financial mistakes without understanding why. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Write down one money decision you keep making that you know isn't smart, just one. Then ask yourself what experience might be driving it, not to excuse it, to understand it. Because you can't change a behavior you can't explain. Lesson 5. Luck and risk are both real, and both are bigger than you think. Here's something uncomfortable. A huge part of your financial results has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's luck. And a huge part of other people's success has nothing to do with how smart they are either. It's luck too. We just don't like admitting it, because it's scary to think your results aren't fully in your control. The book makes the point this way. There's a thin line between bold and reckless, and luck is what separates them. Someone takes a shot, it works, we call them brilliant. Someone takes the same shot, it fails, we call them reckless. Same decision, different result. That's not a difference in skill. That's luck and risk at work. And here's why this matters. When things go well, don't overcredit yourself. When things go wrong, don't over-blame yourself. Both are mostly the weather. What you control is how you prepare for the weather. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Stop judging yourself by outcomes and start judging yourself by decisions. If you made a smart decision and it lost money, that's still a smart decision. If you made a dumb decision and it made money, that's still a dumb decision. Judge the process, not the result. That's the only part you can actually control. That's lesson 5 of 18. Lesson 6. The best returns on the market are the returns you get for free, and the one everyone forgets is the money you simply didn't spend. Here's a strange truth. We spend so much time obsessed with our investments that we ignore the most reliable way to grow our wealth. It's not picking the right stock. It's not timing the market. It's the money you manage to keep. A dollar you don't spend is a dollar that's guaranteed to be there tomorrow. No risk, no volatility, no guesswork, just a dollar that's yours. The book makes the point that saving is a hedge against the unknown. You don't know what's coming. A job loss, a health scare, a market that goes sideways for a decade. And the person with savings can absorb all of that. The person without savings gets derailed by it. So you're not just saving for a number. You're saving to be the kind of person who can take a punch. I had a colleague once who could never quite save. There was always a reason. A trip, an upgrade, I'll start next month. Then the company did layoffs. He was fine in the end, but he spent 6 months terrified because he had almost nothing to fall back on. The guy next to him had a quiet cushion, and he just walked out and took his time finding the next thing. Same event, completely different experience. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Set up a separate account and move one automatic transfer into it the day you get paid. Not the end of the month. Not whatever's left over. First, a dollar saved before you see it is a dollar you'll never miss. Let it build. One day it becomes your ability to say no. Lesson 7. The price of success is volatility, and you have to pay it. Here's the thing nobody warns you about. Getting the big returns in the market comes with a price, and that price is watching your money go down from time to time. Not a little, sometimes a lot. And that's not a bug in the system. That's the cost of the ticket. You can't buy a ticket to the ride and then complain when it moves. Most people want the upside without the downside. They want growth, but they don't want to watch their portfolio drop 20% and feel their stomach turn. So they do the worst possible thing. They sell at the bottom, and they get back in after it's recovered. They've paid the price of volatility and gotten none of the reward. The book puts it this way. The big returns are the compensation for tolerating pain, not smart stock picks. Pain. The money comes because you sat through the uncomfortable parts, not because you outsmarted everyone. I think about a neighbor who panicked and sold everything during a bad stretch, then spent 2 years waiting for the right time to get back in. By the time he did, he'd missed the recovery. He'd done the exact thing that guarantees mediocre returns. He paid the toll and stayed off the road. So here's how you apply this one. Starting this week, write down on a piece of paper that the next time your portfolio drops, you are not allowed to sell. Not until a plan says so. Put it somewhere you'll see it. Because on the worst days, you won't remember this lesson. You'll need it written down. That's lesson 7 of 18. Lesson 8. The most powerful thing you can do is give yourself more time. Here's a fact that should change how you think about everything. Time is the only thing that turns small numbers into big ones. If you have 50 years, you don't need to be a genius. You just need to stay in the game. But if you only have 5 years, you need to get lucky, and that's not a strategy. This is why the single biggest advantage you can create is starting now. Not waiting until you know enough. Not waiting until you have the perfect plan. Starting today, even small, even imperfect, because every month you give yourself is a month you'll never get back. The book makes the point that compounding works so well precisely because it's so boring. Nothing dramatic happens for a long time. Then, all at once, it does. And the people who miss it are the ones who didn't stay in the game long enough to be there when it happened. I remember reading about 2 investors, one who started at 25 and one who started at 35. The one who started 10 years earlier didn't just end up with a little more. Because of compounding, they ended up with several times more, and they didn't have to save nearly as aggressively to do it. The head start did the work. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. If you're not investing yet, start. Even if it's small, even if you feel like you're late, and if you are investing, ask yourself honestly if you're treating this like a 10-year game or a 30-year game. The answer changes every decision you make after it. Lesson 9. The real value of money is freedom, not stuff. Here's something we get backwards. We chase money because we think we want the things it buys. The car, the house, the vacation. But if you stop and think about it, what you actually want is what those things represent. Control, freedom, the ability to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. The book calls it the highest dividend money pays. Not buying things, but buying your own time. The person who can walk away from a job they hate. The person who can spend an afternoon with their family without checking their phone. The person who doesn't flinch when an unexpected bill shows up. That's real wealth. And you can't buy it with a bigger TV. This is why the goal shouldn't be to make as much money as possible. It should be to own your time. And once you see it that way, every decision changes. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "What does this cost me in freedom?" So here's how you apply this one. Starting this week, write down one thing you'd do with your time if you didn't have to worry about money. Just one. Then look at your budget and find one expense that isn't moving you toward
You don't
that.
have to cut it yet.
Just see it. Because the moment you connect your spending to your freedom, it stops being a sacrifice and starts being a trade. Lesson 10. The future is more uncertain than you think, so leave yourself more room than you think. Here's the uncomfortable truth about planning. Your plan is probably wrong. Not because you're bad at planning, but because the future is genuinely unpredictable, and the further out you look, the more wrong your plan is likely to be. Nobody saw the last 5 years coming. Nobody. And the person who planned as if they knew exactly what would happen got hurt. The book's advice is to build in a margin of safety, more than you think you need, because the room for error isn't a sign of weakness. It's the difference between a plan that survives and a plan that shatters the first time reality disagrees. This is why the most important number in your finances might not be your return. It might be your buffer, the gap between where you are and where you'd be in real trouble. Because the future doesn't care about your assumptions. It only cares about your cushion. I know someone who budgeted perfectly, with no room for anything unexpected. Every dollar had a job, and that worked great, right up until the month 2 unexpected things happened at once. Then the whole thing collapsed, and she had to borrow to cover the gap. Not because she was irresponsible, because she left no room for the unknown. And the unknown always shows up. So here's how you apply this one. Starting this week, take a hard look at your emergency fund, and if it's less than 6 months of expenses, make growing it your #1 financial priority for a while. Not your investments, not your upgrades, your buffer. Because a plan with no room for error isn't a plan. Lesson 11. The best investment you can make is often the most boring one. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. The investments that make the most money over time are usually the ones that feel the least exciting. An index fund that tracks the whole market. A set of dividends that quietly reinvest. These don't make for great stories, and they don't impress anyone at a dinner party. But boring, consistent, low-cost investing is how most real wealth gets built. The book makes the point that the greatest investors aren't the ones with the most exciting ideas. They're the ones who don't do stupid things. They avoid the catastrophic losses. They stay in the game. And over decades, simply not making big mistakes beats making brilliant one-off moves almost every single time. This is the part most people get wrong. They think the money is made in the clever stuff, in the timing, in the hot tip. But the money is actually made in the unglamorous, uninteresting, do it again and again stuff. The boring stuff compounds. The exciting stuff usually doesn't because it's usually wrong, or it's usually late, or you sell it too soon. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Take a look at how much of your portfolio is in simple, broad, low-cost investments. And if it's not the foundation of everything you own, ask yourself why. Not to make you feel bad, to make you notice. Because the boring foundation is what lets you be a little exciting with the small stuff, without risking everything. That's lesson 11 of 18. Lesson 12. Your money decisions are about your life, not just your money. Here's something easy to forget. You are not a spreadsheet. You're a person with a life, and your money decisions should serve that life, not the other way around. Yet so many of us make decisions purely to maximize a number, and we end up with a great number and a life we didn't want. The book makes the point that the goal is to be reasonable, not rational. Rational would tell you to optimize every single dollar. Reasonable says, some things are worth more than the extra return. Paying off debt early, even if the math says invest instead. Keeping more cash than you strictly need because it lets you sleep at night. These aren't mistakes. They're purchases of peace of mind. I know a woman who kept a chunk of her money in cash, even though the math said she could earn more invested. And on paper, she was leaving money on the table. But she told me she slept better, made calmer decisions, and never panic-sold anything. The tiny return she gave up bought her years of better behavior. That's a trade that pays for itself. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Find one money decision you make purely out of fear or stress and ask if there's a reasonable version that costs a little but buys you a lot. It might be more cash. It might be more insurance. It might be paying off one debt for the piece of it. It doesn't have to be the mathematically perfect choice. It just has to be the right one for you. That's lesson 12 of 18. Lesson 13, don't risk what you need for what you want. Here's a rule that would save most people from the biggest mistake of their lives. Never take money you need for the future and gamble it on a chance to get rich fast. The downside is not worth the upside. Ever. Because the downside isn't just losing money. The downside is losing your floor, your security, your ability to be patient. The book makes the point that the person with a solid floor is the one who can take risks. Because they know that even if the gamble fails, they're fine. The person who gambles their floor doesn't have that luxury. When it fails, they're not just out the money. They're out of the game. And being out of the game is the most expensive thing there is. This is the difference between a calculated risk and a reckless one. A calculated risk is money you can afford to lose, for a chance at a gain you can afford to win. A reckless risk is money you can't afford to lose, for a chance at a gain you don't actually need. One makes you rich over time. The other makes you broke overnight. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Separate your money into 2 buckets in your mind. Bucket 1 is your future, your security, your needs. Bucket 2 is money you're willing to lose for a shot at more. And make a promise to yourself. Bucket 1 never funds Bucket 2. Not once. not for a great opportunity. Your needs are not a lottery ticket. Lesson 14. The best thing you can do for your wealth is become impossible to take advantage of. Here's a quiet truth about money. Most of the people who lose big don't lose because of bad luck or a bad market. They lose because someone took advantage of them, or they took advantage of themselves. A scheme that sounded too good. A sure thing. A panic-driven decision made at exactly the wrong moment. The book makes the point that the best defense is to build a version of yourself that can't be easily parted from your money. Not by fear, not by greed, not by a stranger promising to double it. When you understand the basic math, when you know how compounding works, when you have a plan you trust, you become a very difficult person to separate from their wealth. I think about my grandfather, who had a simple rule. If he didn't understand something, he didn't invest in it. He missed some opportunities. But he also never lost money to a scam, never chased a bubble, never bought something he couldn't explain. He was impossible to take advantage of, and that over a lifetime made him quietly wealthy. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Make one new rule for yourself. It could be, if I can't explain it in 2 sentences, I don't buy it, or no investment I don't understand, or no decision made while I'm panicking. Write it down. That single rule will protect your wealth more than any tip, any stock, any scheme ever will. Lesson 15. The goal is to be rich enough to be free, not to be the richest. Here's a question worth sitting with. What is money actually for? Not what do we use it for, but what is it for at the end of the day? And the answer, almost always, is freedom. Money is stored time. It's stored options. It's the ability to make choices without asking permission. And the moment you lose sight of that, you start chasing the wrong goal. The book makes the point that there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is having a lot. Being wealthy is being free. And you can be wealthy without being rich if your life is arranged so you don't need much. And you can be rich without being wealthy if you have a lot but can't stop working and worrying. This is why the number that matters isn't some huge figure. It's the number where you'd be okay, where you could handle the unexpected, where you could say no. Once you hit that number, everything else is optional and you get to choose what matters. That's a beautiful place to be. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Write down your number, not a dream number, your number. The amount where you'd feel genuinely free, where you could sleep at night no matter what happened. Then look at your current plan and ask yourself if it's pointed at that number. If it isn't, that's not a failure. It's just a target you haven't set yet. And you can't hit a target you haven't set. That's lesson 15 of 18. Lesson 16. Savings is a hedge against the parts of life you can't predict. Here's something most people don't think about until it's too late. Your savings isn't just a number on a screen. It's your insurance against every unknown thing the future might throw at you. A job loss, a health problem, a family emergency, a market that decides to be ugly for a while. You don't know which one is coming. You only know one of them is coming. The book makes the point that saving is a hedge against the unknown, and that the best saving isn't motivated by a specific goal. It's motivated by the simple fact that you can't see the future. The person who saves for the unknown doesn't look dramatic. They just look calm. Because when something goes wrong, they're the one who isn't panicking. I remember a couple who saved aggressively for years, with no particular goal in mind. Friends asked why they were being so boring with their money. Then the husband lost his job in the same month their daughter needed a big medical expense. And that boring, unglamorous pile of savings turned out to be the single smartest thing they'd ever done. Nobody's asking why they saved anymore. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Decide that a portion of your income is untouchable no matter what. Not for a house, not for a car, just for the unknown. Give it one job, to be there when life surprises you. Because life always surprises you. And the people who sleep through those surprises are the ones who saved for a rainy day that they refused to believe was coming. Lesson 17. The best time to learn how to be rich is before you're rich. Here's a trap that catches a lot of people. They spend years working toward a pile of money, and they never once practice what it's like to actually have it. Then one day it arrives, and they don't know how to behave. They panic. They overspend. They trust the wrong people. They make decisions they regret because they'd never rehearsed being wealthy. The book makes the point that the person who grows slowly into wealth handles it well because they learned the skills along the way. Budgeting, patience, saying no, compound interest. They practiced being rich with small amounts. So by the time the big money came, it wasn't a surprise. It was just more of what they already knew. This is why the habits matter more than the number. The guy who gets good at managing a small salary becomes the guy who's good at managing a large fortune. The skills don't change. The zeros just get bigger. And the person who skips the practice, who waits until the money arrives to learn how to handle it, is the person who watches it slip away. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Treat your current money, whatever it is, like a rehearsal for bigger money. Manage it with the same care you would if it were 10 times larger. Track it, plan it, don't panic because the person you are with a small amount right now is exactly the person you'll be with a large amount later. Practice being rich with what you have. That's lesson 17 of 18. Lesson 18. You don't need to be a genius. You need to be consistent. Here's the most freeing lesson of all. You do not need to be a financial genius. You don't need to pick the perfect stock. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to know everything before you start. What you need is to be consistent, to keep showing up, to keep saving, keep investing, keep making the boring decision, month after month after month for years. The book makes the point that the power of compounding isn't reserved for the brilliant. It's available to anyone who stays in the game long enough. The geniuses often blow up because they get overconfident and take one giant risk. The consistent people survive, and they end up with more because they were still there when the compounding finally did its thing. The people you admire with real wealth, almost none of them got there with one brilliant move. They got there the same way, slowly, boringly, reliably. They didn't outsmart the market, they outlasted it. And that's a skill anyone can learn. It just takes time, which, as it turns out, is the whole point. So here's how you apply this one, starting this week. Pick one thing, one single financial habit, and commit to it for the next 12 months. One, not 5, not 10. One consistent, boring, do it no matter what because habit. 18 lessons is a lot, but they all collapse down to this. Don't be brilliant. Be there, every month, every year, and let the time do the heavy lifting. That's the whole game. That's lesson 18 of 18. So let's pull all of this together, because 18 lessons can feel like a lot, and the last thing I want is for you to walk away feeling overwhelmed. Here's what you actually need to remember. Money is not about being clever. It's about behavior. It's about patience. It's about consistency. It's about giving yourself time, leaving room for the unexpected, and refusing to risk what you need for what you want. Every single lesson in this video comes back to the same place. Your future is built by what you do this week, not by what you wish you'd done last decade. And that's exactly why I put together the Trip to Wealth Google Sheet Command Center. Because knowing these lessons and actually applying them are two completely different things. The spreadsheet is where you take everything from this video and turn it into a plan you'll actually follow. It's where you track the numbers that matter, where you build your buffer, where you give every dollar a job and every month a direction. It takes the 18 lessons and makes them real in a way that's simple enough to keep doing. If that sounds useful, the link is in the description, and it's where I'd point anyone who's serious about taking this from inspiration to execution. Because let's be honest, you already know most of what I've said today. The hard part was never the knowing, it was the doing, and the command center is built for the doing. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one lesson from this video, just one, and apply it this week. Not next month, not when you're ready, this week. Then come back and tell me which one you picked and how it went, because 18 lessons on a screen change nothing. 18 lessons applied change everything. That's how you actually apply the psychology of money. And that's how you build the future you've been putting off. Start this week, be consistent, give it time, and let the compounding do the work. Now go make it happen. And I'll see you in the next one.